Okay, intro to the haul truck series. Um, as you guys probably know, just working on this truck isn't getting things accomplished. There's a lot of legwork that has to be done, and I am looking for various parts. Um, Engine, transmission, sleeper, etc., etc. Um, Got that rear axle, but I need a front axle also. There's a whole bunch of other things that I'm going to be needing. So finding them parts, getting them parts, finding out where to get those parts takes a lot of legwork. Whether it be legwork on the computer or uh, physical, actual legwork of going someplace to look for it. So there has been updates on the truck, as you can probably see over my shoulder. And I will go into that in some videos here. But there is a big update coming. So partway through, I'll let you know what it is. Back on the front of the truck again. What I'm doing is just pulling out the bolts for the fender. I'm actually going to pull that fender off, and I want to clean it up and go over it off of the truck. And pulling the fender off is going to give me better access to get this radiator support out of here. On this one here, what happened is the J-bolt behind it broke. So it was just spinning. So what I did is just took a cut-off wheel and cut that the bolt head off of it, and I'll just pound it through. Okay, so the next little clip is going to be me working on the back of the truck, and you're probably going to wonder, okay, so he was just working on the front, now he's working on the back. It's just kind of the way I am. Sometimes you hit a snag or something doesn't go as planned. My kind of solution to that is pull off of it for a minute before you get pissed and throw something or hit something and go do something else and then go back to it. You know, and I can afford to do that. If you're working in a garage and your task is to take the front fenders off of a car, you've kind of got to do that. You can't, you know, go around and take the trunk lid off because you're annoyed with the front fenders, but I have the option of being able to do that, and it's kind of self-relief for me to be able to do it, to be able to walk away from it if I get a little frustrated or get a little annoyed at something happening. I can walk away from it for a minute and do something else and then go back to it when I'm not annoyed at it anymore. So that's kind of why I'm going to be jumping around here. So I'm going to be working back onto the frame, removing some of that junk and from the rear end of it, the framework. Let me just show you the pile is growing down below of wires, tubes, everything else. So that's what I do, and that's why I'm doing it, just so that you know. So here we are on those nuts, trying to get those nuts off of there, and they're really well, there's one off. I'm going to let that second one soak in PB Blaster for a little while before I try and pull it off. I loosened it up and I've got the tubing adapter off the other side, but I just soaked it in PB Blaster and let it set for a little while. What I did is put the truck up on stands, the front of the truck up on stands, so that I could spin them wheels freely, so that I could loosen the bolts that are back under here that hold the fender on. It's fairly loose right now, but I've got to get them bolts off of the bottom, see what else is hanging on. There's always probably something hanging on that I can't see, don't notice. Bring it back. As I had said in a previous video, I had jacked the front of the truck up so that I could turn them wheels, get better access to the bolts that hold these fenders on. So I'm going to start working on that again while that thing in the back on the frame is soaking. I just wanted to show you this. This is that chrome trim ring from around the headlight. Now, what I did is I took some polishing compound and I just cleaned it up. There was little rust around the holes where the screws were. When they put this thing together, they didn't use stainless steel screws, so they rusted and they're left rusting. Now there is a little bit of pitting on it, but it cleaned right up, and what I'll do is I'll put a sealer over it to clean it up. But what I want to show you is on the back side, you can see that it's very bad. So I took it to somebody, and a guy, a body shop guy, and what he recommended was this POR 50, and it's a rust stabilizer. And what I did was I cleaned this one up on the wire with a wire wheel on the back. The back of this headlight rim was the exact same as that other one was. So I cleaned it up with the wire wheel and I painted it on. And it's a kind of a sample. I want to see how it bonds to it, if it's good. I've been told this stuff is really excellent, and I'm probably going to use it on the frame when I clean that up. Let me take you over there. I'm doing a little work over there anyway, so let me take you over there and show that to you. Okay, we're over here at the frame. What I'm in the process of doing is those are those two pass-through ports for the frame where those fuel lines went, and I'm pulling them off. What I did is pulled off the fittings first, and then I'm going to pull them off just to clean up the frame. But what I wanted to show you is what I did is when I came over here, I started loosening that up and realized that they were threaded all the way out. It was kind of caked on rust and dirt over the top of it. So I brought a wire wheel over here just to clean up the threads a little bit before I started taking the bottom one off. I had already started taking the top one off, but while I was over here, I just hit this top of this frame rail with that wire wheel, and that's kind of what I've got. So what I'm intending to do, as long as it works out okay, because I've been told this stuff is really great, is when I get this frame cleaned up, I'm going to coat the frame with that POR 15 and use that as the frame coating on it. But I'll bring you back. Okay, so I got the fender off of it. Here's a lower part, that skirt part of it. As you can see, there's no rust holes in it. I mean, there's some surface rust on the back of it, surface rust on the front of it, but actually no rust holes in it. And here is the fender, and is in good shape. Absolutely no rust holes in it. Now, what I kind of plan on doing is putting that paint, that rust paint, on underneath the fender. Let me pick it up for you. So what I'll do is I'll clean up the inside of the fender and paint it with that stuff so that everything gets coated with it. That fender is in good shape. While I have it off, I'll just paint it. Now, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to pull that fender off. There's more work with that because there's that battery bracket, battery tray that's held on with a billion bolts. They just don't make stuff like this anymore. But I'm going to take that one off too, and so that the front end is all off. That'll give me better access for everything anyways. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of discussion about the truck. I have purchased something for the truck, and I'm really excited about it. I found an 8.3 engine with a P pump. Not only does it have the P pump that I wanted, I didn't want that caps pump. The mechanical pump, they started manufacturing one after the P pump with a caps pump, and it's not reliable, and you can't turn it up either. So I wanted the P pump, I wanted the 8.3. I've got a video, or will have a video, of the engine running, and the engine has a compressor, so I'm happy. Now, that's not the best part. I have been looking for a transmission, and there's a bunch of transmissions I've been looking at that I could have bought offline and gone places to get it. I had my eye on one in Ohio, southern Ohio. It's a Eaton Fuller 10-speed transmission is what I wanted to put in it. So when I went down to look at this engine, the guy says, I said, well, you know, I'm looking at a transmission out in Ohio, Eaton Fuller, and he says, oh, we've got a couple of them in trucks. And I says, no kidding, can you take me out and just show me the truck that they're in? And he took me out in the yard, and he says, this one's got the Eaton Fuller with the overdrive. And I says, wait a minute, you've got an Eaton Fuller 10-speed with overdrive? Because the ones that I had looked at were just the older style Eaton Fullers with a 10th gear would have been a 1-to-1 ratio. And I know that I didn't even know that they made the overdrive transmission in the 10-speed. I knew that they made them in the 13, 15, and 18 speeds, but those transmissions have an overdrive, and it's 0.73 to 1. So he says, yeah, let me take this number down off of the truck, and we'll go in and talk to the guy. They have a mechanic there. I should tell you, it's a salvage yard. They have a mechanic there that used to be a diesel mechanic and worked for a big trucking company in Buffalo. And we went in and talked to him, and he says, yeah, that's the overdrive transmission. It's he says, I'm not sure if it's 0.73 or 0.75 to 1, but it's the overdrive transmission. And I couldn't have been happier. Asked him how much he wanted it for a package. He told me. I says, let me call you back tomorrow. I called him back, and that would be today. I called him back just a little while ago, and we made a deal, and I got him down about $500 on the package. So I'm really happy. I'm not sure when I'm going to be picking it up. He's got to pull that transmission out of the truck, and he told me that he would give me a call when it's out, and I can go down and pick it up. But I couldn't be happier. Okay, so finally that radiator support, the fenders are off. I've still got to pull that wheel well off of there, but it's just a matter of disconnecting all those hoses and that solenoid, the electrical solenoid off of it. But anyways, it's off. Now disconnect the engine, pull the engine and transmission out of it. But anyways, I'll bring you back. Okay, so here it is the next day. I got that other wheel well out of there. Had to disconnect that solenoid, all the heater hoses and stuff off of the wheel well, and get it out of there. Now I'm gonna take them over, try and clean everything up, get the back side of the fenders and the wheel wells cleaned up and painted with that whatever it is, POR or 15. One of the things, the first thing that I'm probably going to do is pull the engine out of there. Heater hose. Look at it. It's a old school type of a cable valve. Instead of having an electronic valve in the heater, so that you, when you turn the knob on there, it opens and closes the port going into the heater. They have a manual one. I'll bring you back. Okay, I just want to add again that the reason for me jumping all over the place is a bunch of folds. You know, as I mentioned before, you get frustrated working on something, and instead of taking that frustration out on that part or the vehicle, just move on to something else and do something else. One of the other things is that you know, in going out and doing things, looking for parts, looking for this, you come back in and you don't pick up where you left off. You move on to something else and just do other things that what seemed important to you before you left to go out to look at something isn't as important as when you get back. One of the things that I am doing is going through the wiring, and I made a video of this, and I'm not going to show it to you because it's extensive and it's kind of for myself. But one of the things that I want to just kind of show you is that on that oil filter, the top of the oil filter where the original sensor was for the oil pressure gauge, I now have 3 sensors. Now, without ever having saw the truck, the fire truck, I've got to assume that there was probably a control panel in the back of it, and on that control panel there was an engine oil sensor. Because there was a PTO off of the thing, there was probably a PTO driven pump. And there was probably a control panel on the back for the firemen to use, and it probably monitored the engine oil pressure just so that they had a clear view of what was going on with the engine back there at the control panel. But that being said, so I've got a sensor for the oil pressure in cab, and I've got a sensor for the oil pressure probably in a control panel in the back, like I mentioned. What is the third one for? So what I have to do is go through this wiring and kind of, I'm going to pull the engine out, but I want to mark the wiring so that I can know when I trace it back what was original, what goes where, and where it came from. Again, I don't know why they had 3 sensors on it. maybe there's two pressure sensors, and maybe there was a oil temperature sensor on it. So I'm not really sure. So I'm kind of second guessing myself. And again, I don't know whether I'm going to be using all of this wiring, any of the wiring, but if I do use it, I kind of need to know where it went to. So that's kind of my reason for doing this stuff. So, and again, I'm kind of sorry I jumped all over the place, but that's kind of the way it is when you get sidetracked, get pulled off on other things, and come back to it, or get frustrated with what you're doing. So on to the next video. Hopefully the next video I will have that engine and transmission to be able to show you, but there's a possibility I might not. So I will be continuing on. I'm going to be pulling the engine and transmission out of it. Again, I want to keep a rolling chassis so that I can take it outside, probably power wash it off the frame, and then figure out how I'm going to deal with cleaning up the frame, cleaning up everything, whether I'm going to sandblast it or be able to do it with like wire wheels and sanding. So I'll bring you back. Again, thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe.